to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and today's Power Talk Friday is sponsored by Revel Woods. Joining me for the interview today is John Dupra. John's father, Craig, started in the wood flooring business before John was even born. He was an installer and refinisher. He did this for 24 years before he eventually opened his own wholesale wood flooring distribution company in Rochester, New York. John grew up helping his father when he wasn't in school, and then he took a job for Saint-Gobain, a large materials manufacturing company. John traveled the country as a sales engineer working with flooring contractors for 8 years, and then he decided to return home and join the family business in wholesale distribution. As we have learned in previous interviews with Reed Humphrey of Alder and Tweed, Jake Baer of Newell, and even Jason Harris of Furniture Land South, something very interesting can happen when the second or third generation joins the family business. Often another generation looks at things from a completely different angle, and they bring an entirely new way of either marketing the business or, like in John's case, of actually doing the business. When John returned, he got together with Jonathan Mocha, the operations manager, and they worked on an idea to take the boutique flooring showroom experience and put it online. They were inspired by high-end fashion sites like Stitch Fix and Trunk Club, and this is how the idea for Revel Woods was born. Another important thing is that John tells us how wood flooring is far and away the number one desired flooring in American homes, and about a recent study that showed that 66% of people prefer it in their dream home. And you know what came in second? Tile at 16%. Now, 79% of the people also believe that wood flooring helps increase the value of their home. And again, tile being number two at 13%. These are important facts for you to understand as an interior designer when you talk with your clients about the value of installing hardwood flooring. And after listening to John today, I believe, just like me, you will agree that Revel Woods has developed a truly unique way to enable you as an interior designer to learn about and to confidently specify hardwood floors on your projects. The thing is, Revel Woods' mission is to make the buying process of expert, curated, high-quality hardwood floors as easy as possible. Listen as John tells us about the proprietary algorithm and how it removes many of the technical barriers you normally face when sourcing wood floor. They are also launching a new website with a revamped Pro program to help you make money on this very desired high-ticket item. John is genuine, down-to-earth guy. You can hear in his conversation the passion he has for the industry, and it's not surprising that he has been featured in a number of the publications in the industry, including being recognized in Hardwood Floor Magazine's first ever 40 Under 40. So I think you're going to enjoy this conversation and learning about Revel Woods. Here we go. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thank you. This is great.
Yeah, so here we go. I am excited to learn more about Revel Woods. You and I have been getting to know each other over the last couple of months, a couple of conversations. I have to say, just off the bat, I have enjoyed learning about you and your family and your business. And so far, I just really think that you guys are onto something pretty interesting and could be very valuable for interior designers. So first, I just want to congratulate you guys and say, I think you're doing something good so far. Good. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've been excited. I've been listening to your show, and I know we talked full disclosure even a few months ago, and you had helped us. We're, as I'll get into a little bit, growing in this path, and you offered some advice that some ways that I hadn't thought about. It was challenging, but it was in a good way, like a good workout.
Okay.
And it was really, it helped us kind of reshape where we're headed with this.
Oh, that's
so no, I
interesting.
appreciate that.
Okay,
I also
cool.
made like one of those. I've been looking forward to doing this show, so I made like one of those construction paper ring advent calendars. I've just been ripping one off every day, so I'm excited that the day is finally here.
That's pretty funny. Oh my God. All right. That's actually pretty freaking funny.
I will show it. I'll send you a picture of it. It's going to be a bunch of ripped construction paper, but
my
I've got
God.
2 kids, so I've got plenty of construction paper.
I think that's nuts when somebody takes me by surprise like that.
Sorry, I would love to tell you that's not going to happen again, but it's
Oh
probably going to happen.
God, that's great. That's awesome. Okay, so John, here's what we're doing. Listen up, everybody. We're talking about this company of yours. I went through in the introduction a little bit about the company, but the main thing is that you guys have been wholesalers of wood flooring for 10 years. And to clarify, because I needed the clarification, so I'm going to share it. The clarification on that is that when you talk about wholesale, you mean if there is a big flooring store out on our highway, it's like, where does that flooring store get their flooring? And so that's what you guys have been for the last 10 years. And now you are expanding and tweaking your business model to be available direct to interior designers, for one, which is what we're going to talk about today and why that's important for interior designers. But that's our understanding of what's happened. You had one model and you're expanding your model into a different type of business, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, the just talking a little bit about the supply chain in this industry. So as I said in the bio, I mean, we've been at this a long time. My father started when I was actually before I was born as an installer, sand and finisher, almost out of necessity. So we grew up in this business, and then we both have taken various leadership positions, even within the National Wood Flooring Association, which is our trade association. My father's actually currently vice chair of the board of directors. He will be chairman next spring, about a year from now. So that is really exciting. So we know this industry, and so to kind of unpack a little bit, because it's important, the supply chain and kind of why it exists the way it is. I mean, it's an old commodity-based industry, wood flooring, and as it's because it's big, it's heavy, it's a hard product to move. So regional distribution has always been kind of how that works. The manufacturer has to make large quantities. It takes up a lot of space. So it's hard to sell direct to a consumer or direct to a flooring store that can't take the level of inventory needed. So the wholesale distribution business acted sort of both as an intermediary warehouse as well as a professional curator to make sure that like the higher quality lines usually don't go direct to the retailer. So that's sort of where we've lived for 10 years. After a fairly sizable distributor in the Northeast went out of business, my father saw an opportunity there, knows the business, knows that kind of thing, and started that business.
Okay. So tell us, what does that mean for us now? So you are, as an interior designer, I'm listening to the show and I'm thinking, huh? So what?
Right.
So right now, let's actually take a more basic step. If I'm an interior designer listening, is there a place now that I can see your product? Like, where would I go if this is the first time I'm hearing about Revel Woods and I think, I want to know what it looks like? Where is that happening now?
So everything with Revel Woods exists online only, and we took that business model. I mean, traditionally, if you're a wood flooring manufacturer or a brand, you would have to distribute out to get a nationwide presence. You'd have to have this dealer network. It's a very difficult thing to do, and you're not even guaranteed coverage everywhere. And then on top of that, you also lose control of the sales process. So we thought, okay, at the distribution level, how do we make this available to everybody equally, fairly, so that we can control the end user experience from beginning to end? So right now, if you go to revelwoods.com, that's where everything exists. And that was, as it said in the bio, one of the things that we set out to do was, could we take the boutique showroom experience and translate that to the internet. As opposed to, and I don't mean to pick on them, but like a HomeDepot.com where just here's everything we offer. It may or may not work for you. That's up to you to decide. Good luck. And we really wanted to take that the Revel Woods brand really is a brand of curated expertise from top to bottom. We curate the space you're putting it in to make sure it's paired with the right product. And we've also curated the product on the higher end to only source from people that we know are good, ethical, quality mills, quality materials, the way they treat their employees. We vetted all of that, and we're a lot harder to fool than maybe a designer or even an end user, somebody who wanted to try and do that themselves.
Okay. So you said one thing in there. We wanted to control the end user experience from beginning to end. And is the reason for that, when you say that, you mean when a designer would walk into a flooring store on their highway and use that flooring store as their vendor, you wanted to control that because you felt like they were not getting well treated as far as from an expertise and information level and sourcing product level? Is that like, in other words, and I don't mean it as a bad thing against the guy on the highway making a living, but I mean, did you look at that like, we've got this excellent product going out there and we don't feel like that person in the middle of us and the designer is doing a great job in educating and, like you're saying, curating and presenting? Is that what you mean? Like
it is. And it's not that they're not, it's that we have no idea. It's almost luck of the draw. If you've got a store in your area that's really good, great.
Right.
But
I hear you.
You might not.
Right. Okay.
Based on what I'm hearing out there, the chances are actually you probably don't. But but you may have one. That's not to say they're all bad, right? Because you don't know. But that was part of that lost control. When you get to that dealer level, not only is it at an additional markup, but you also, it's sort of up to the independent dealer how that store is run or how they've trained their employees or what types of products they want to push and why. It may be I'm pushing this product not because it's better for this specific situation, but because that's what we're making our deal, or I'm getting a kickback from the manufacturer or whatever it is. So it's hard to know at that point what you're getting and why you're getting it. And you may have somebody that in your market that is amazing. Right. That's totally possible. I don't want to discount that.
So it's interesting that you care about it. Like frankly, I mean, right. I mean, I just think that's pretty admirable. Like you're sitting there saying, because now I'm getting the model. In other words, it's like me at Window Works. I'm a Hunter Douglas dealer. Hunter Douglas is an international company. I am a dealer for Hunter Douglas, and they do some things to make sure that you are aligning with their brand as far as the way you present it, but not a whole lot. Like you're right. I could just be out here not being a good business person, not representing the brand well, and they may or may not know it. And so that's what I'm hearing. You're like, I want to know that all the way through to the consumer that this product is well handled and well represented.
That's exactly right. I mean, we care to a level where it's like people are sort of like, wow, who cares, right? It's a sale is a sale. But it is, as I mentioned, with our leadership positions in the association, I mean, this is the industry that we've thrown in on, and we genuinely care about it. It's a big industry, but not really, right? It's almost, I joke about it with people, we call it Hardwood High, because we all know each other. And I'm sure that some of my friends out there that saw this posted on my social media that are listening to it, that are both happy and upset with me. But it is, we just had our convention, and it was literally like a high school reunion. It was like, oh yeah, what's Todd up to? But on that note, I mean, it is, it's also an industry where there's such little turnover. Like everybody kind of cares at that level. But we're passionate about it, and we know it. And so we want to make sure that, and that's part of the curation process. And when you go on the website, you don't just see product, or you can't just buy product. You have to go through our Revel Woods selectors, we're branding it, to make sure that that's this proprietary algorithm that measures, where you are. So your climate, what the subfloor is, is it radiant heat? Is it concrete? Is it wood? Your activity level. Do you have dogs, kids, all those things? So not everything with wood, because it's a plant-based material, works everywhere. So it's something that works really great in high rise in New Hampshire, if they have them in New Hampshire, but may not necessarily work for a beach house in Miami. So you have to kind of know those. It's a very technical sale, and because of that, a lot of people kind of shy away from it, and they don't have to. So that was part of what we were tackling with this was how do we remove a lot of those technical barriers? And so what happens when you complete the Revel Woods selector, and it takes, I mean, if you really want to take your time, it takes 5 minutes, but if you know what you're doing, it takes like 9 seconds.
That's too long. I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there's some design and aesthetic questions in the selector that you can just say no preference and it shows you everything. But when you go through that, what you're presented with is essentially a digital showroom of only products that work for that specific situation. And when we started originally, and this was something that, we didn't know what we were going to get right. We didn't know. When you do something new, like you always know you're going to screw half of it up. You just don't half. So when we started it, we thought this is really a great kind of consumer end user tool. Like the homeowner's going to love this. They don't have to be experts. There's no salesperson that may or may not be properly educated, that may or may not be pushing a product that works. They don't have to rely on some third party like a hardwood forum or their Uncle Rick who took a woodshop class in high school and says hickory's the best for everything. Don't worry about it. Because this is, we wanted to remove that. And so what we noticed though with the homeowner is this is a product that you buy like 3 times in your life, fewer if you're lucky.
Right.
And in doing that, we kind of noticed they didn't know how bad this could go for them until they'd already messed it up or they've already went through the process. So we were kind of solving a problem for them that they didn't know they had.
Right.
And that's a kind of an unenviable position to be in from a marketing standpoint. But what we did notice early on was the interior design community.
They know it. They know they have a problem.
They got it right away.
Yes.
So we thought, okay, you guys are awesome. Why don't we learn more about you?
Right.
And so that was we went on this journey through trying to understand this industry and our industry in hardwood flooring, going back to the supply chain thing, never really empowered the interior design community. And by empowered, I mean, they want them. They want the influence, but there's no real carrot there. You can't really make any money sourcing hardwood, especially if you're buying at the retail level.
Right.
And beyond that, if you went to a large wholesaler, they wouldn't sell you unless you either had a showroom that you were dedicated to flooring, or in some cases, if you could prove that you were a flooring installer yourself. So there really hasn't been anybody at more of a wholesale level servicing the interior design community before us. And I mean, there may be somebody else out there, but if they're not very good at marketing because we haven't come across them.
So I want to go back and recap a couple of things in there just to make sure we're all on the same page. So This selector that you're describing, just so that everybody understands, because the first time you and I talked, I asked you like 20 questions, so I got it. And now I want to make sure because you went through it. So what you're explaining to us is that if you're an interior designer and you are in, Missouri and you are in whatever, I don't even know what the climate is in Missouri. Okay. That's a bad example, Luann.
I lived there for 5 years. It's very humid.
How funny that I picked the same place you used to live. Okay. So it's very humid.
Long story, but place though.
Okay, so the thing is, what we're saying is that I love this because whether you are a seasoned interior designer or you're a new designer, flooring is a very expensive purchase. And what you're saying is that previously you could be in a retail showroom that is maybe giving you a designer trade discount, notwithstanding, that's not relevant to this part of the conversation, but you could be at a showroom, and simply ask the questions based on aesthetic. And you might say, I've got dogs, and does that mean I need but does my client need a different finish on the top of her wood because she's got 16 dogs and 3 kids, right? But what you're saying is with your proprietary system, a designer can sit down at their computer and say, Missouri, humid, dogs, laundry room, all the criteria that you that you could have in that home, and then your selector will say, these are the 5 wood species that are appropriate for this, and these are off the table. These are not going to perform well. Don't suggest these to your client.
Yes. So when you get to, effectively, yes, that's how it works. And it's even more basic. You don't even have to say laundry room or anything. The main ones are climate, subfloor, and activity level. In terms of the objective, the hard, like, you need to know what works with these. And we get climate from the zip code. We actually developed a way to cross-reference American
so
zip
it's not
code
even subjective to the designer says, well, I don't think it's that humid
I don't know.
here.
Yeah, you don't know. We take care of that for you. You tell us the zip code it's going.
That's good.
And then what we do 2 things currently. The second one we might change, actually, but we're still playing with it. But the first one, it cross-references the zip code with what's called the Copenhagen climate rating for the entire world. There's climate codes that tell you kind of how humid or temperature, those types of things. And we cross-referenced what our entire selection, our entire offering, what climate codes it works in and doesn't work in.
Whoa.
So when you type in that zip code, that gives you the climate. So we don't need to know whether it's humid or semi-humid, whatever, or dry or whatever. We already know that. And then from there, subfloor matters and radiant heat. There's certain things aren't warranted over radiant heat, for example.
Okay.
Some things are, though. So the idea that you have radiant heat so you can't have a wood floor is not true.
Okay.
And the idea that you've got dogs or high activity level in the home so you can't have a wood floor is also not true.
Okay.
And so when you get to the end, that's exactly what happens is you won't even see the things. So if you have radiant heat, for example, you won't see anything that's not warranted over radiant.
Right.
And so you name that space and whatever it is, Johnson Kitchen, if it's that climate space, and then it saves it. If it's for that client. And so you can, the space you'll have saved under Johnson Kitchen may be way different under Vin Diesel's man cave, right, in Los Angeles or wherever he lives. I don't know. I don't know Vin Diesel. But so it's that's kind of how it works. It's all situational based.
I like it because it is a highly technical product, and you could be with less experience, like you said, if you have never purchased wood flooring, whether it's for yourself or a client before, you don't even know what you don't know sometimes. You're picking based on aesthetic and style, and I want 6-inch planks, and I want it this color, and I want the knots, I don't want the knots. And you might ask your local dealer some questions about durability and this and that. But if you, as you said, you had no control knowing if the local dealer was somebody who really takes it to heart, or it's like they have 15 billion yards feet left over of a job, and they're like, this will be great there, why don't you take this one? So I love that it takes something that's hard to understand, hard to get good information on, and reduces it to literally what you know as the manufacturer of it, the supplier of it, what can be warranted, because that's all we really care about at the end of the day. If you're not going to warranty it, then hello, it's probably not going to work. So let's stay away from it.
Yes, that was so much better put than what I said.
I don't know that it was. That felt round in circles for me too, but
no, and it sort of is though, right? Because it's a really technical product that we're trying to basically simplify. And it was inspired originally kind of by the fashion industry. We thought, how do we, because when we work with people locally, I ask these questions. I mean, even before, if they come in and say, I want hickory, my question is always, okay, why?
Right.
Like it's not, a lot of times a salesperson will say, okay, here's our hickories, have a nice day.
Right.
But like hickory is a great example because it's a really hard species. So sometimes they say, I've got dogs, so I need something really hard. But even hickory with a smooth texture and a semi-gloss or shinier finish is going to show more dense scratches and wear than a softer wood like a silver maple that's been hand scraped with a low sheen oil finish. So it's not always even hardness. So that's first part. Second part is hickory. We call it our toddler of the flooring world. Like even if you have a good one, it misbehaves. So because it is really reactive to moisture. So a wide plank solid hickory. And by solid, I mean it's one piece of wood per board as opposed to an engineered where there's layers. We handle all this too. But it's that you put that in a lake house, it's going to turn into like little mini skate ramps. I mean, it's going to buckle. It could split open. It really could be a bad move. And so the other piece of this is twofold. One, flooring is from an aesthetic standpoint, I mean, it really is the center of any design space. Like you can't make up for a bad floor with amazing curtains.
Right.
A really cool couch just doesn't look great. Right. A $20,000 chair looks really bad on vinyl.
Right.
So it's definitely, it's really, really important to have that control. But the other piece is too, if it doesn't work, it's a hard thing to just swap out or upgrade next year when you have a little bit more money in your budget. I mean, if you do a whole house, like you have to move out.
Right.
So if it goes badly, even if it's warranted or it's covered, you're still going to have a bad time. And so that's our piece too, is morally, we didn't feel like it was right. Because we've had people, designers, we've had homeowners, we've had people use the Revel Woods selector and say, I hate this. I know what I want. And our response to that is, that's cool. Maybe you do. And if you do, good luck. We wish you the best. But we are not going to sell you something we're not going to stand behind, period. Like,
I love
it's
it.
just more, it's not okay. Even if our legal word says you can't sue us ever for any reason,
right?
Ha ha, sucker. And that might even be in there. I'm not sure. We have a really good lawyer, but even just from an ethics standpoint, right? Like I know that you say you want this wide plank hickory for this lake house, and I know you say it's going to work, and that's fine. There's lots of people that will sell it to you. I just don't feel good about it,
Right. Well, I love that. It's because it is such a, like you said, you even if the manufacturer is going to warranty it, you have that situation with the client where the client could look at you and say, you recommended this. Why did this buckle? Or I have to move out of my house. Like you said, that's inconvenient and all that other stuff. So this takes a very high ticket item and gives some level of assurance to a designer that they are making a good suggestion for their client. I love that. That's because it is like having, I mean, I love what you said, that you wanted to have, no salesperson error. You know what I mean? Like there's no like that, the salesperson that's working there today who isn't invested, doesn't care, it's just a job for them, that takes that whole thing out. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's awesome.
It's really frustrating for the manufacturers. I was talking to a friend of mine on the West Coast. He's a business development manager for a very large distributor out there. And he was telling me a story where he had to go to look at a claim in, I don't know, it might have even been in Canada, like in Vancouver or something. But he was expressing frustration that with our antiquated supply chain, where the product came in, I think it was imported from China even, I'm not 100% sure. But it came in, it went through the distribution, it went through one dealer, and then it went to another dealer in Canada before it finally got to the end user. And he was like, that's an extreme example, but still, it was like, this is nuts. This is nuts. Yeah. And, by then, who knows how many levels of expertise it's been distilled through. So the original passion and understanding and knowledge and education from the manufacturer level is all but gone at that point. And then the other point, even if it's covered, and if we recommended it for that, if you were truthful with us in the selector and we recommended a product, we are going to stand behind it. But even that can be painful. I mean, we had one on the wholesale side from a manufacturer that is not involved on the Revel Woods side. It had failed. It was a lake house in the Syracuse area, I think. It was a $30,000 claim.
Whoa.
And it was, ultimately the manufacturer paid. It was a manufacturing issue. But that was another piece of it. Like, not that manufacturer, we won't use them because we've had other issues like that with them on the wholesale side. We already know. Like, I'm not going to ship this hither and yon because I don't trust you. Right. So it's not, and so you as a designer working with us, we've already weeded a lot of that out.
So what you're saying is that particular manufacturer is ordering the product from you, but not taking the care when he turns around and sells it out to the other people. If, for instance, in your hickory example, I know hickory's not going to work in a lake house, but he'll sell it to them anyway. So it's the big person in between the two of you. And now you've noticed 2 or 3 or however many occasions that this particular manufacturer seems to have more claims than others. And therefore you're off the list. We're not even working with you.
That's exactly right. That's and there was for our vetting process for manufacturers, so right now we are only sourcing from the US and Canada. And one of the reasons for that is, we believe in North American manufacturing. That is a thing, and it can get political, but we like the people we work with. But the other piece of that, though, was, and it's not that we would say we would never source from an overseas supplier, because for us, it's not always necessarily the location, but the location mattered to us because we know these people personally. I mean, one of our suppliers is a very, very good friend of mine now. We will exchange texts just randomly throughout the day that are just like a random joke or something that happened. And, we have that level of relationship so that if there's an issue with this product, like it is not trying to track down somebody in Nanjing, China, which is a wonderful place. And they invited me there a few weeks ago to see their manufacturing facilities. And they were very good people, and I was very warmly received, but it was hard to get to. So, in that aspect, for somebody in Tennessee or Montreal or wherever we're working with, it's not hard to even get there if there's a production issue to say, what is going on, guys? Like, you got to step up here.
Okay.
And they have that relationship with us as well. So that was one of the factors of it. But even if somebody hit all that criteria, we had another manufacturer, a large supplier, that we heard horror stories from their former employees about how they were being treated. We thought, I don't care if it's the best product in the world. We're not going down that route. Like, you're going to have to find somebody else to carry your water.
Okay.
So
It's interesting.
Yeah, Revel Woods really is, as a brand, it's an expert level curation.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about what's happening. So the new website is coming out. It's at the time of this airing of this. Well, at the time of recording, it's not out. At the time of airing, it may be just about out. And so if you are listening and you go to their site and it doesn't say it's a brand new site, then come on back a week or two later. But tell us a little bit about this rollout and this launch, and get me to, like, designer, perk up and listen now. Here's what's in it for you. Other than obviously the big plus that I really wanted to make sure we talked about was that whole being able to comfortably specify a product that is insanely expensive, insanely hard to put down, hard to pick up, hard to change your mind on, with some confidence. So whatever level of expertise of designer you're at, you feel like you have some, like, power behind you to make a quality decision. So we have that part. What's happening next for us as designers that you guys are doing?
So that's a great question. So the way you just described how difficult this product is to source, the initial question is, okay, maybe I don't do this, right? Like, maybe I just continue to outsource it. And that's been what's happening. So the design community has not been really all hands-on with us in the hardwood flooring sector for that reason. So it makes perfect sense why a lot of designers are outsourcing this to their GC or to a retail store, because it's like, oh, that ain't worth the risk. But so this is where we're going. So our thought process was twofold. One, the designers have an enormous amount of influence and buying power and expertise. Two, they're in charge of the entire project. They're in charge of the budget, which is really where the battlefield is for all of us in home goods. So our thought process was, we need to empower them technically, which the website does, and then we also need to incentivize them financially, because if you can't make money, so it's great. Your business, you stand out if you can source this product, because you have that much more control over the entire space, the look, feel, and everything in the entire space. But that may not be enough, So what we're doing with the new website, we learned a lot, and so it's going to be more designer friendly. We currently had our pro account that exists today. In the old system was another program that we sort of API'd in. We didn't know how we wanted it to work. It's a little clunky user interface, but the new one, we're moving the entire site onto one platform. So as opposed to, it's sort of Frankenstein's monster today, not to pull the curtain back too far, but we didn't know what we were doing originally. It's sort of a prototype with the stuff we had built around, lying around in the garage. It works really well, but it's, various APIs tied together on a custom platform. And so when we realized, okay, there's something here, like the people want this. We said, let's move it onto a platform. So technologically speaking, it's going to be much faster. It's going to work better. Everything's going to be much more clearly explained. And then from the designer side, with our pro account, as we're calling it, it's going to be much easier to see, your clients and, what you sold and where everything went and all of that. So we are making it it's going to be much easier to use. It's going to be much smoother. Everything's going to be all sort of on one platform, one login. So that is a big piece from a user experience standpoint.
One thing that I remember from our conversation, and I wonder where you guys ended up on it. When we were first talking a couple months ago and you were explaining this to me, I remember what I asked you was, if I'm a consumer, can I go on the website and see the same thing a designer can? And you said yes. And I said, so then why would I, as a designer, use your product? I mean, I love the calculator thing. You know that I love that. But I was concerned on how a designer was going to make money with integrity if the consumer could get on the site too. Tell me what you decided and what's happening with that.
So that is a great question. And that was a central focus point for us after that discussion. We had many other discussions just trying to figure out, what does this community want? What do they need to be successful? So one of the things that we saw was a pain point for designers is they don't like being shopped. If
Right.
they recommended a product, they don't want their client coming back going, well, what about this? This is a thing I can buy, or I can buy this myself. And so they said they don't like being shopped, number one. Number two, if given the chance to buy through a designer or buy themselves, even if it was the same price, they would choose to buy themselves to get the airline miles. That was something else that we heard a lot.
Right.
So we thought, okay, how do we make this work? And then number three, just a problem we had to face that you guys maybe don't care about, but it was something we had to take into consideration. This was always a commodity-based business, and even though it's moving more into a fashion realm, we don't have the margins in general that like furniture does. Mm-hmm. So how do we work with the margins that we have to make this, to incentivize this? And so this is what we came up with, and we can be flexible. If you've got a specific situation or need, we can now, with moving everything onto an internal platform that we have control over, we can actually be a little flexible if somebody has a need outside of this. But this is what we came up with. Number one, our products only exist on our site. They're our brand, so they're not shoppable anywhere other than Revel Woods. Number two, the designer needs, in order for them to want to buy through the designer as opposed to just buying it themselves, there has to be a financial incentive. Right. And then number three, the designer needs to make some money. So we played with the best way to do this. And it's what we settled on was a discount plus a rebate structure. So what it would do is if you buy, and the discount's not big, but it's the only discounts we offer on the site is if you buy through a professional. We don't do sales. We don't do Black Friday. We don't do anything like that. We never will. So long as I work here. So what we settled on was a discount plus a rebate structure. So the discount is not as much as the rebate. So what we right now, the original way it was split 5% and 5%, but we're going to up the rebate to 10%. With the launch of the new site, and anybody who has an existing pro account will be grandfathered into the new one, and then we'll also have people sign up for the new one. But the way it works is when you sign up for a pro account, you get a code, and that code, when entered at checkout, will receive a 5% discount. And so it doesn't sound like 5% is not that much, but 5% on $10,000 worth of flooring is still, lunch for groceries for the week.
Exactly.
And then on the back end, because I think the designer should be able to offer some value to say, if you're buying a Revel Woods floor, you will buy it less from me than if you bought it on your own. And then on the back end, we give the designer 10%. And so the designer, if they want to buy it all themselves and pass that entire discount on, that's up to them. But I don't love that. I think that if you're going through the time, money, and expertise, you should be able to walk away with something from that. And that total 15% is not too far off of a retail margin or even a wholesale margin in this industry. Like, they're really, really tight margins.
So I want to clarify here, just so before
please.
you keep going. So what you're saying is, if I am a retail consumer and I come across Revel Woods and I go to your website and I have access to this whole flooring, metrics too, where I can put in my zip code and everything else. I can come up with this whole thing, and my GC has told me how many linear feet I need or whatever, how you sell it in it, and I can put it in and I can come up with a price. And what you're saying is, as a consumer, that price is going to be at the retail price. When I put it in that same exact thing as a designer with my designer code, that price is going to be 5% less. Do I understand that part correct so far?
Yeah, well, you won't actually see the discount reflected until checkout. So you'll know it's at a discount. But if the client wanted to purchase themselves and get the airline miles, they could do that at a discount than if they just purchased it without that code. So there's no incentive for them to buy it themselves without using your designer code.
But what I'm getting to is, why do I even want the client to have any of that discount? You see, that's what I'm getting at. So couldn't I, like, I'm thinking how I would use it. I would be like, okay, I'm designer Sally, and I'm going in and where I'm suggesting this to you, and hey, let's sit down and let's put this in here. This is a company that I believe in. This is a company that blah, blah, blah. And this is the price when we put the floor up. The 5% goes in my pocket. The client never sees that we come up with a price, and the price is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do I have to tell them? Like, I don't have to. It's up to me individually as a designer, right? But what we're saying is that when we get to checkout, without the designer pro account code plugged in, both the consumer and the designer are going to see the same price without the code plugged in. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Now, what you're saying is, if I want to, as a designer, I can say, hey, this is what the price came out to be, but I get a 5% discount on this if you purchase it through me. You know, instead of being $50,000, it's going to be whatever 5% off is $50,000. Everybody knows I have no idea what that is. Okay, so and then what you're saying is that the designer can offer a 5% discount so that prevents the client from ordering direct. But then additionally, back end, we're also going to pick up another 10% that nobody ever sees or hears about.
Exactly. And the reason, so we went back and forth on, should they even be able to see this? Should the end user be able to buy this? What is the advantage of that? And so because we're so new in sourcing this in this space, a lot of the clients particularly are wood is wood. You sourced a red oak from this company that I don't know. I found a red oak on my own that was way less expensive, but there isn't, they don't know if it's any good, or they don't. So what we're trying to accomplish in that is, look, they can go and see exactly who we are, what we do, and why this is as much money as it is. Because we are, admittedly, and I probably should have opened with this, not the low end. I mean, it probably came across, right? But it's a premium product. And so for a higher end clientele. But this allows the client, if they wanted to go and say, okay, this is a high-end product. This is not something you can find anywhere else, and buying through this designer provides some value if they wanted to do that. Now, if they don't want to even send the client to the site, they don't necessarily have to. And then even the back-end commission structure, depending on the size of the job, we can play with that too. If we can save on freight or somewhere, if it's a larger job, we would pass that along to the designer on the back end to use at her discretion. So
I'm sorry to cut you off, but every time you get a little part, I want to make sure we have it clear before we go further. So the thing what I like about what you're saying is that there is a tendency in many consumers to want to see, feel, hear, look themselves. And so this does address that need. So if a designer were to say, hey, I'm specifying this hardwood floor for you, and this is the one, and this is the style, and this is how much it costs, this combats the client that says, well, like you said, my Uncle Harry said that I should use this flooring. And now if your site is not set up for consumer facing, it makes it impossible for the designer to share your site as a resource, which backs up from a knowledge and manufacturing standpoint the reason that Uncle Harry's advice is off the mark. And so I like that. Okay. And the thing is, I think when we first talked, when you described to me that 5% discount, that's where I gave you pushback. I was like, that's ridiculous, because now they only have no choice but to give it up to them, or they can go somewhere else and buy. And is that how come you came up with this extra? Is that where that came from? Because I like that back part.
Yes. So the back part, and I guess it's a rebate commission, however you want to structure it. It is the sort of thing that if the designer really wants to knock the bottom out of the pricing of this flooring, they have the freedom to do. but we really thought that we wanted to find a way that allowed them to provide some value to the customer if they needed to, if they have one of those clients. But really still, and I mean, even 10% then on top of that is a substantial in flooring. I mean, there's people that with 15%, I know people that will go crazy for 12% on this at the retail level. So it can be significant money in this, but because it's so new in sourcing this, and what I'm willing to do too, and what we're going to watch this, if the design channel particularly blows up here, we are going to shift it even more away from the end consumers. But a lot of them, when we talked to originally, liked the idea of having something that they could say, because otherwise the burden is entirely on the designer to tell our story and what we do and how we do it and why it's this way. And as you can see, even just based on this, it's a complex one. So we've developed the resources so that it takes care of that for them. At the trade-off of, I guess, a 5% margin. But it is the only way they can get a discount on the site.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. I do, because I'll use Kravet as an example. Kravet has a website that any consumer can go to. But if they want pricing and access and ordering, you have to be a designer and you have to prove that you're a business, and that's how you get access to the other site. But, you have no compunction to send your client to curatedkravet.com in order to look at everything. That's what I love about it. It's so that they can confirm for themselves that what you're dealing with is a quality company and the product is quality, and read the story and understand why, in their case, what they're putting into it, in your case, your family history and your connection with the industry, and that this tool enables the consumer and the designer to make a quality decision for such an expensive product. So I get it. I agree. You don't want the designer necessarily to tell your brand story. You want to tell it, and I love it. And I'm going to say, any job I could sell without giving the 5% up, that would be me. And you would be hard pressed to find me giving my 10% up on the back end. I mean, I could see looking at somebody and saying, hey, we're going to do this and see that price, but don't worry, on $30,000 worth of flooring, I just did this with a calculator, by the way, you're going to save $1,500. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's pretty cool. I love it.
Well, and the goal in this was that you can still offer that value, because clients especially want to get a deal, right? So they're working with the high-end designer, and they're having this great experience, and this project is being managed, and it's awesome. And then on top of that, and in the interest of transparency, this is what this flooring costs. This is what your price is. Right. So you're welcome. Right. And then you're getting more money than that on the back end, because honestly, you can give that back end away if you wanted to, but personally, I don't think you should. I think if you're going through the effort of selling this, you should be compensated for this. And then something like flooring, I mean, you mentioned that $1,500. I mean, depending on the size of the job and what's sourced and how it is, I mean, there's thousands of dollars being left on the table by high-end designers right now because they're not empowered to service this type of product. So not only does it make your services that much higher because you can source the flooring and manage that, and then we can get into the installation aspect of it too if you want. But on top of that, there's thousands of dollars per job potentially just being left on the table.
Yeah, no, I think you're in a great direction. I love that extra little bit. That was my sticking point with you a couple months ago. I was like,
and we call it the Luann rule and behind the scenes. That was really great. That was really, because we didn't know, we really didn't. We were trying to think, how do we do this? We knew we had to make a compromise somewhere.
Yes,
but
you had to make
it that's going to.
Well, you had to make it attractive. What do we care? I mean, and by the way, you would have had a whole lot of people, designers, because of the other things you're bringing to the table. I definitely do see the value of the tool and the commitment to ethics and integrity. And, I can hear it in your voice. I heard it in the first time I spoke to you. Everything you say reinforces that this is a ethical company and that you are as a company looking for ways to partner. But when it came down to the dollar bills, I was like, I'm lost now. No, it's not enough. So I love it. All right.
Well, our whole approach to this from the beginning was we didn't want to do it fast. This was not a quick buck.
No.
This was not just slap some flooring online, knock the bottom out of the price like a parasitic business model. And we jokingly, when we were developing it, we codenamed it CheapChineseFloorsDirect.com, which is funny because it's none of those things. But it's just our sense of humor. But it is. I mean, our whole thing was every single piece of this, from the sampling to We have every order that gets placed, a welcome kit gets sent out before the flooring that has an owner's manual that we developed that you could pass to the next homeowner saying, this is a Revel Woods floor. This is how you take care of it. A custom branded hygrometer that tells you the humidity and temperature in the space. So you know if like, hey, it's really dry in here, maybe our HVAC is not working, we're going to have a problem. And then it also like a cleaning kit designed for that specific floor. So you're not hunting around. The second that floor is installed, you have everything you need to take care of it. I mean, we really tried all the way down to how we structure the pro account. How do we do this the best? Like, how do we be the best at this, regardless of cost, regardless of how long it's going to take longer to do it this way, whatever. But we didn't want to be gross. That was our
no, and I understand your challenge too. Like you said at one point earlier, this is not a product that has a ton of markup in it. So I think you've come up with a nice solution, because you did need to incentivize the interior designer to keep coming back to you, and you've done it in a lot of great ways. That whole kit that you offer it's a beautiful kit, and you send it and it just puts another layer of that luxury on that the designer then rubs off on the designer that's suggested it, and it's good. Tell us, because the one thing is you said in there, and I realize we have to address this. If I am a solo designer out here, and I am going to, because we've got big designers that are big firms that have basically GCs and construction people under their wing as part of their big operation. But if I'm a solo, or even if I'm a firm with 2, 3, 4 employees, how do I source your product? But now I've now cut out that guy on the highway who I was also buying from, but he was installing. How do you help us address that?
So that's a great question, and that's been something as we've approached the relaunch that we've codenamed internally closing the loop, because that is really important.
Yes.
And so what we're doing, we have a couple of associations or a couple of companies we've been working with that curate installers. So there's a couple things to know about installers, and we know them very, very well. Like I said, my father was one for 24 years, or I think it was 22, 24, somewhere in that neighborhood. He'll correct me, I'm sure, when he hears this, but a really long time. And then our ties with the National Wood Flooring Association. We know these guys really, really well, and love them and respect them. So there's a couple of things going into that thinking. So we're part of the new site. Probably phase 2 is an even better way to close that loop. But the way it works today is we've vetted a few contractor certification programs. The two that we really like are the National Wood Flooring Association has a certification program that we've gone through and know those people really well. And then Bona, they make the flooring cleaner. I'm sure you've probably seen Bona. They have a certified craftsman program as well that we really like. So what we do is between their networks and then our general network of knowing where all these installers are, knowing how to find them, we will help with that process. So if you can't find somebody through the certified channels and you still need help, in fact, I literally did this yesterday. We have a designer in San Francisco that's sourcing for a project, and the client couldn't find an installer. They didn't know, and I happen to know. I know a guy who's really, really good in Santa Cruz and recommended him. And this is who you want to talk to. So we have the benefit, being as high up in the association that we are, that we have access to networks of people beyond even just Googling flooring installer in my area. We have access to the ability to vet them and know their reputation and know things about them that you might not necessarily be able to ascertain. And we are fully on board with helping you as best we can there to help find somebody that will do that job.
And the thing that I want to make clear, and I want to make sure I understand it too, is this isn't like, hey, if you get to know me, I'll do this favor for you, Sally Designer. This is part of your service. You don't have to be a big-time designer that's ordered 15 times and now all of a sudden John will answer your question and help you find an installer. You are invested in helping a one-off designer with a one-off job find a one-off installer so that the whole project is handled from front to back as perfectly as it can. Am I correct?
Yes. I mean, we don't actually schedule the jobs.
No. But vetting,
we will help.
The recommendations.
We will help make the connection.
Yes.
And recommendation of somebody that, we have networks that we recommend, and then beyond that, I'm willing to do that. And the thinking too is that, I mean, is it ever really one off? If this works for this job,
Right.
there's twofold there. So here's a little bit about what installers want. Like, here's how they think. And it's important to know that when you're sourcing a product, or if you're going to go this route to take your business to this next level, like, it's kind of important to know, here's some inside information on them. So many of them really all of them are craftsmen at heart. They are very proud of what they do, and they really enjoy a lot of times what they do, from the craftsman aspect of it. Then you get to that next level in terms of business and selling product and selling that kind of stuff. That's where there's sort of a divide, and a lot of them do it and they force themselves to be good at it in order to stay in business, but they don't always necessarily love it. And then you get some that are really good at it and really do love it, and so they're across the spectrum on the business side of things. But many of them, many of them have told me personally, how do we get these high-end jobs from these designers? And there are some that have working relationships with the designer, and they love this. So what they love is they don't have to find the lead. They get the job already. They didn't have to go track it down. They don't have to go through the selection process with the homeowner. Everything's all taken care of. They just have to show up and do the job, and then they get paid on time. That's the other piece. And then the third thing is they will get nervous when they hear a homeowner or a designer has sourced the product for this job. And here's the reason for that. Traditionally, homeowners and even the design community think about either price or aesthetics. And they're not thinking about what's going to work structurally in that space. They're not thinking about the quality of the materials. They're thinking, I got a deal on this, come slap it in. Well, here's what happens to these installers when that happens. They get stuck with wood that is very, very difficult to work with. Their labor costs go up tremendously. The job may not come out right. I know a guy here in town. He was being sued by the homeowner. He installed wood that was purchased at a big box store. He had to fight with it. It didn't go in quite right. It wasn't milled or wasn't dried right. It buckled, and they had an inspector who was not an NWFA certified inspector, just some guy who called himself an inspector, said, oh yeah, this is the installer's fault. He's being sued. So on the flip side of that, so they get nervous if what you're sourcing for that job is not good material. You'll end up, anything you saved on the material, by the way, will go up with the additional labor costs. So it's not really a savings, but some people don't think that way. So the other issue with that is they want to know, especially if they build that relationship with you and you're sourcing from Revel Woods, for example, they know if I show up, I'm getting these decent amount of work, I'm getting these high-end jobs, and the material I'm working with is easy to work with, and I get paid on time, you're going to be their priority.
Right.
You're not really taking from them at that point. You're providing a service to them, and they're going to have that relationship. And when you need help or more flooring jobs down the line, you're going to have that working rapport with them. They will love you if you pay them on time, it's decent work, and the materials are easy to work with.
Mm-hmm. No, I know that model very well. I tell the designers that I coach so often, go into your local window treatment store, go into your local tiler, make a relationship with them, because they want the professional relationship. It's exactly what you said. All day long, I would rather work with 3 to 4 to 5 to 20 interior designers who already know what I do is valuable, already know the product that I provide is of good quality, and already know that the people work for them, are going to do their very best, even if there is a problem or a mistake. Whereas with the direct retail consumer, I'm each day telling that story, explaining it to them. This is our value. This is why it's good to work with us. So yes, it's so nice. And so for you to describe, it's funny because your description of a professional wood floor installer reminds me of the E-Myth, right? The technician, right. He wants to just do his job. He doesn't want to pay the bills. He doesn't want to make the appointment. He wants to just do the craft of what he does. And so I love this whole thing, because sometimes products like this are products like this are hard for every level of designer because the risk is so great, but they're particularly tougher for a newer, less seasoned designer to break into. You can see that the risk is so high. Their knowledge is so much less. They haven't done 5 projects before where one floor went wrong and now they know the questions to ask the next time, right? But this sort of takes a lot of that out of that for the newer designer. We have your website that is going to really walk us through and let us only select the most appropriate woods for a space. You have the references of the certification network where we can go in and know that you vetted these people. And if that doesn't work, we can put an email in and say, there's nobody in my area on the list, help. Okay. And of course we have the pricing structure where the consumer can see everything that's of value that your wood floor does and all the products and everything else, but we can make some money even if they're, shopping around and blah, blah, blah. So I love it. I think you're onto a really cool thing here, John.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. That was a really good summary of it too. I think you nailed it exactly. And, and that's a piece too. And we know that this is, so from our standpoint, we're seeing the interior design community, at least, and by we, I mean just Revel Woods, not our industry at large yet. They haven't caught up, but we are seeing the interior design really as this should be our industry should be the interaction between the consumer and wood flooring should be through the interior designer. That should be the channel. Right. But we also know that it's new. And for a lot of these designers who are not used to this, we know that first job or the first couple is going to be like, I don't know, this isn't how I do this. So we also understand that. And that's where my team, myself, we're here to say, okay, we want to make sure this goes smoothly, and we'll do the hand holding. Like if you need help with this or you've got an additional question, or I've jumped on calls with a few designers since then and just said, look, this is what it's like, and this is what's going to happen, and I'm here. Mm-hmm. If anything goes wrong, I got you.
Right.
So It's follow the steps, and if it doesn't work, I got you.
Right.
And that, because we know that's right. Unlike with the end user, once you're comfortable with this and this becomes a part of your business, not only have you increased your revenue stream, you've increased your skill set, you've increased your value to your clients, you're going to attract even more higher end clients. You're that one-stop shop for the high end, which is something that Lowe's and House and Home Depot are doing really well for the low end products.
Right.
It gets easier. Eventually, it's like you're not even going to need the website. Well, you still will need to order it, but it's like I already know what's going to work in this spot, and I already know who's going to install it, and so it is though. We understand that it's that initial with anything new. That first couple times are going to be, like learning anything new. Might be some stumbling, might be some silly questions, but whatever, right? Like we understand that. We got it. But we're committed to you if you're committed to learning this, because we just see this as this is the match. This is where we should be working with them, and they should be working with us. And, together we can raise the high end even more. And that's kind of who we're targeting. Yeah. I mean, we're not really looking for the drive-through decorator. We're looking for and by high end, I don't mean large. I just mean like you're good at your craft and you want to work with the best.
Right. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's really I'm excited to watch it roll out and to see the number of designers that understand and take advantage of the value of it. And I have to say, really what I love, like I keep hammering in on this because I really do feel like it's the newer designer that is going to really benefit from this. Do you know what I'm saying? I love that whole feeling of, okay, somebody has my back. I can really go on here and make sure that I don't make a really big mistake. So I like that. I like that feeling a lot. And so, the bigger firms, they have access and they have experience and they have big teams, and it's valuable for them as well, for sure. But that was the push button for me that I thought was really awesome when we were talking before. So I'm so glad that you came on the show, John, to tell us all about Revel Woods. And so revelwoods.com, is that tell us the website.
Yes, it's revelwoods.com, and then you'll be able to navigate to more information about the pro account if you want to sign up. And if you hear this and it's still the old site, That's cool. If you sign up now, you'll be grandfathered into the new one, and I'll be sure to release too to all of our pros, a walkthrough of this is when the site's ready to launch. This is how it's going to work. This is how to use it. This is what this is for, so that you don't have to fumble around on it. Well, I'll make sure that we walk you through everything when it's launched.
Two things. How will we know the before and after? What will happen on the news site so they know if they're listening, since we're not sure when we're airing? How will
that's a great question. So the biggest, easiest thing is probably the color scheme. We did a little rebranding. And the look and feel, if it's more of a darker brown kind of maroon color scheme versus today it's sort of black and white with like a navy blue. So that navy blue is not there anymore.
Okay. So we're going to look for the brown and the maroon. That's the new site.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed talking with you, and I really appreciate your sponsoring this show, and I do think it was valuable for our peers out there. I hope they enjoy it.
Thank you. This was great. We should do it again sometime.
Yes. Pretty interesting, isn't it? You heard it. I said it when I first spoke with John. I immediately saw the potential, not only for you if you are an experienced designer, because they do have this new trade structure and their network of installation professionals that they're happy to connect with you. But I also really, like I kept saying, I really see this as a tremendous opportunity for you if you are a new designer, one of my baby designers out there, right? What better way to cut the learning curve in specifying such an expensive product than to have a team like Revel Woods and their online tool at your disposal? And also, too, did you hear John explain how much professional wood flooring installers prefer to work with you as a designer than the direct consumer? It's what I tell you all the time, right? Develop your team of vendors, and that includes, in addition to your window treatment team, you're a paint contractor, you're a tiler, it includes your wood floor installer too. As vendors, we love to work with the same people over and over. We learn the shorthand of our conversations. We learn how to make you happy so you keep coming back. It's a win-win for both of us. I keep telling you, I hope you're hearing me. I just love everything about this program. Please take a moment and check out revelwoods.com. Sign up for your pro account today and get started specifying hardwood floors for your next project. Now, I mentioned Reed Humphrey and Alder and Tweed when I was talking in the intro. Reed's show was episode 194, by the way. This is a terrific show about the value of niching, and it is also another very interesting show about multi-generational family businesses. And I have a teaser alert for you. This summer, July, Las Vegas Market 2018, John will be joining me at the Alder and Tweed showroom as part of a panel discussion with Lindsay Humphrey and Sarah Daniele. So please, if you're coming to Las Vegas Market, please make sure you check out on my website, luannniagara.com. The details are probably not up on the website yet, but that's where you're going to find them. And of course, it'll be in the newsletter. Now, in addition to this, I have another teaser for you. This one is even bigger. This year at Las Vegas Market, I am going to be conducting a one-day action-packed, I don't know what to call it, seminar just doesn't seem to cut it. But basically, I'm taking Luann Niagara and friends on the road. That's what I'm doing. I am going to be doing an event on Saturday, July 28th, the day before market opens up. Revel Woods and My Doma are the sponsors of this event. And the thing is with this event, I'm going to have a slate of 5 of us experts speaking to you. We are going to do presentations all morning, and then in the afternoon, we're going to do breakout sessions, and then we're going to have an amazing dinner at a 5-star restaurant together, just us, after the day is done. So this is a very, very special event. It's a awesome opportunity for you to step out and work on your business for one full day with myself and 4 other experts in business. Okay. So I'm not sure if the landing page is up by the time I'm telling you this or not, so that you can get the information on signing up and everything. I can tell you these couple of things. It is going to be a limited number of people because I want to make sure that we actually are helping you with your specific needs in your business. Okay. So what I would suggest that you do is it will eventually be on my website. And when it's there, it'll be under Attend a Live Event page, okay? But the other thing to do is to make sure that you're on my email list. And you know that you can do that by texting this number, 444999, and enter in the field Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ. Okay, 444999. This will put you on my email list. You will be on the list that you get a newsletter every single Wednesday and additional emails randomly, like 5 or 6, 7 a year. I mean, I don't even think I had that many this year, when I have other opportunities that I want you to know about in order to grow your interior design business. Basically, consider this your GDPR disclaimer. Okay. All righty. Kidding. I'm sure there's going to be language there about that. So keep your ears perked for this event. It's, like I said, it's limited. This is not going to be 100 people, because I want to be able to work with you personally and have the opportunity for each of me and the other 4 coaches to work with you and make some real change in your business. Okay. So in addition to all of this, if you liked what you heard today, go over to revelwoods.com and tell them you want to know more about the trade program and how you can add this high-ticket product to your design projects. Make a decision. Do something for you and your business today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.